It's a hockey night!
Welcome to 3SN. I'm Alex, filling in for our lead man, Greg Bichero. I'm going to give this leadoff thing a shot. With me is James Dotson, our hockey guy. How you doing, James?
Doing all right, man. I'm ready to start the playoff beard and drop the puck. Let's get it rolling.
All right, we're going to do some playoff predictions for the NHL. Dotson, who do you got between the Rangers and the Capitals?
Well, Washington's number one seed. They came up strong in the end. I think they'd be the obvious pick, but the Rangers won the season series 3-1 overall against the Caps. And what did Washington in last year was the play of Yaroslav Halak. So I can see Henrik Lundqvist doing the same thing for the Rangers this year. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go right off the bat, and I'm going to say we're going to have an upset right off the bat, and that the Rangers are going to knock the Capitals out in the first round.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. The Caps seem to choke come playoff time. I don't know if I don't know what the problem is there, but I'm going to go with the Rangers too.
Yeah, the Caps, I mean, they're finally looking to defense, which is a big difference from last year, but I mean, they can score all they want in the regular season. Their team still is not built for playoff hockey of tough, physical 6 or 7 game series, and I think the Rangers are a much better fit.
Yeah, I agree with you. That probably is the reason why. Who do you got between the Sabres and the Flyers?
Well, this series to me is all about momentum. Philadelphia is coming into the playoffs. Their last 10 games, they're 3-4-3. Only 3 victories in their last 10 games. And it's all about consistency. I mean, they played well for a stretch, and right now they're not playing well. And that's not the way you want to go into the playoffs. And Buffalo, they're going to be reliant on Ryan Miller. And when you have a goalie that's playing this well, I mean, led Team USA in the Olympics to the gold medal game, to me, I think it's also tough here to go against the underdog Buffalo. They split the regular season, and again, momentum. Buffalo is 8-1-1 in their last 10 games.
Yeah, I have Buffalo too. I mean, look what Halak did with the Canadiens last year. I see Ryan Miller performing pretty well. I think he's going to go on a hot streak just like Halak did. Which will go back to the Canadiens who are facing the Bruins. Who do you have in that matchup?
Well, no Halak this year, but Carey Price has come up pretty strong here in the end of the year. He didn't start the season too well. Neither of these teams are particularly impressive to watch in terms of seeing lots of goal scoring. But if you like pure hockey of seeing the teams duke it out, having good goaltending, good solid defense, this is the series to keep your eye on. I think Boston wins just because of their ability to control the game, to keep it low scoring. And I see Zdeno Chara having a very big series here against Montreal.
We have our beloved Pittsburgh Penguins facing the Lightning. I'm kind of torn between this matchup. My heart says Pens, but a lack of an offensive threat is kind of making me feel like the Lightning are going to come out on top. Although I will say, I guess with my official prediction, I'll go with the Pens in 7. Who do you have coming out of this matchup?
It's all about momentum for both of these teams. Pens are 8-2 in their last 10 games, including 4 straight wins. Tampa's 7-3, so both teams are playing well right now. So this should be another fun matchup. Tampa beat the Pens late in the year, but I'll tell you what, that Game 7 is a very good possibility in playing at home. The way Pittsburgh wins this series, and if they want to go anywhere in this Stanley Cup playoffs, is by the play of Marc-Andre Fleury. Because he's had games where he'll make the most spectacular saves in the world, but then you see other games, like against Ottawa in the first round last year, where he let a goal 10 seconds into the game. So it depends on what Marc-Andre Fleury shows up, and obviously whether or not the Pens get Sidney Crosby back.
Well, I don't think he's going to come back for this series. I don't even know if he'll come back for the second series. I mean, even without him and Malkin, they've been playing well. I think the reason why I have doubts about the Pens in this series is actually not necessarily because of Crosby and Malkin. It's because a lot of the games they've won as of recently was in the shootout, and there is no shootouts in the playoffs. So maybe if there were shootouts after overtime, I'd feel better. But let's go back to Crosby. Do you think bringing Sid back would help propel the team? I certainly do. I know a lot of people say it'll mess up chemistry and things like that, but I think Crosby's on such another level. It wouldn't even matter. They desperately need him on the power play, and they need offense. So what do you think about that?
Well, I'm one of those who's very unsure how I feel about this really. Because any other team, any other player, I say no doubt you got to keep this guy out of the lineup. He's been out too long, and it will mess up a team chemistry. However, this is the Pens who have played with way more people than any other team throughout the entire year. They switch up their lines like it's nobody's business. The year that they won the cup, they were changing lines 3, 4, 5 times in the middle of a game, just switching it up to try something different. So chemistry isn't an issue. And obviously, I mean, even though Crosby technically hasn't been practicing with full hits, he's been skating. And I'll tell you what, the last session I saw, he was unbelievable in his skates around. He looked like he was flying around that ice, and he's ready to get back. And the Pens are preparing as if they're going to have him back. They've practiced today actually with 5 lines, and Crosby was on that 5th line. So I think we could see him come in. You could see him possibly play a 4th line role in the first series to kind of weed him back in. But I still see that when he's ready to come back, if he's ready to come back, you'll see him put right up there with Neal and Kovalev, and we're going to have a real fun show here in Pittsburgh.
So now we have the Blackhawks and the Vancouver Canucks. Blackhawks just barely made it into the playoffs. Who do you have coming out of that matchup?
Well, everything's pointing to Vancouver in this one. Chicago has not played well this year, but the fact of the matter is they are still the Stanley Cup champions. So they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think this series goes a lot deeper than people think, but I still think Vancouver with the Sedin twins are going to be too much to handle. I think they win it in 6 or 7.
So who do you have between the Sharks and the Kings? Is it an obvious one with the Sharks? I think it is. I don't think the Kings come out of that at all in any way.
Well, the Kings are a little bit scarier than a lot of people think. The play of Jonathan Quick, their goaltender, has just been outstanding. And their defensive unit, I mean, some of these names, Drew Doughty, Jack Johnson, Willie Mitchell, Rob Scuderi, former Pittsburgher there, they've just been really solid defensively. In fact, only the Canucks and Bruins have scored or have allowed fewer goals than the Kings this year. So if they can control the way San Jose plays a game, if they can control the tempo, they can make it a series too. But I think just the way San Jose has played over the years, and this is maybe one of their best years, one of their best teams, I can't pick against San Jose. I think they have to move on in this matchup. But again, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Another favorite team of yours, the Detroit Red Wings, is facing the Phoenix Coyotes. Are you going to be biased here and have the Red Wings come out, or do you think the Coyotes have a chance at all?
Well, the Red Wings are always a tough team to reckon with. But the thing is, they are by far the National Hockey League's oldest team. You got like players like Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, Mike Modano, Brian Rafalski, Nicholas Lidstrom. I mean, these guys, it seems like, have been there for 30 years. So I think that goes against them, and I think Phoenix is just a team on a mission right now. So I'm going against my my number 2 team of the Red Wings, and I'm taking the Phoenix Coyotes because honestly, I just think that even though the Red Wings seem to always have a playoff style hockey, I just think Phoenix wins this one due to their goaltending and due to the play of players like Keith Yandel and Shane Doan. But this will be probably, in my mind, the best first round series. They played 4 times in the regular season. 3 of those games went into overtime.
So who do you have between the Mighty Ducks and the Predators?
I currently have Anaheim, and the reason that I'm picking Anaheim is Hart Trophy candidate Corey Perry. He scored 19 goals in the last 16 games. The team as a whole has won 4 straight, 7 out of their last 10. The only question mark they have is their goaltending. Is it going to be Ray Emery? Is it going to be Jonas Hiller? The only issue is that both of them are a little on the unhealthy side at the moment. As for Nashville, they've made playoffs 6 times in 7 years, but they've never won a first-round matchup. And I think that streak, sadly, will continue for them. I think Anaheim moves on in this.
All right, well, let's get some official predictions of what teams will represent the East and West in this playoffs. So who do you got coming out of the East?
I think that if Pittsburgh can get Crosby back, and if they can get him into the lineup the way that they should, as in not just putting him straight up on the front line unless he is ready, and not adjusting their game plan because of bringing Crosby back, I think it's kind of tough to not pick Pittsburgh. They've won 8 out of the last 10 games without Sid the Kid. So getting him back, I think, can only improve the team.
Well, I hope I am wrong, and I hope you're right. I really do. But I just don't see that happening. I mean, yeah, if they get Sid back, they definitely have a chance. I don't know, just this team has, I know they've been hot as the last few games, but this team has shown me in general that they can go extremely cold, and they have trouble scoring goals. The power play, for the most part, has been putrid. I know they had a couple goals last few games, but I think they went through a stretch where they were like 30 and 60 or something like that. Hopefully, like I said, that changed for good.
Yeah, and don't expect to see many power play goals against Tampa Bay. They are tops of the league in terms of the penalty kill. So don't expect to see that power play lighting up the net too much for Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, if they had Malkin back, I'd feel even more confident about them than I do now, but they don't even have him. I think he'd be leading this team, and I think they'd be pretty red hot. But I actually have the Bruins coming out of the East. It might be hard to find a better defensive team than the Bruins, who's 2.3 goals against per game is the best mark in the Eastern Conference and second best in the league. So I'm going to go with them. Who do you got coming out of the West?
Out of the West, I find it tough to go against San Jose. They are playing well down the stretch, and just the way their history has been. The only thing that is really against them is just what's happened in their past. They've done so well in the regular season, yet struggled in the playoffs. So if they can just put that behind them, I think they can defeat any team in the West. But also just the way Anaheim's playing, keep your eye on them too. But I got my eye on San Jose.
I have the Canucks coming out of the West. They have a ton going for them this season. Let's start with the obvious. Daniel Sedin and Henrik Sedin, who make up most of their offense. Pretty explosive offense. Henrik won the Hart Trophy last season, and the case will probably be made this year for it to stay in the family and go to Daniel. So I have the Canucks and the Bruins. I don't know if many people have the Bruins coming out of the East, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Anything's possible. There's a lot of, standings don't matter that much as we've seen in the past. Vancouver and San Jose have been tops of the West for 2, 3, 4 years now, and neither of them have gone far in the playoffs. So it's sometimes the rankings don't matter. You never know what can happen.
I agree. Look, I'm not a hockey guy, but how many times have you seen 2-1s come back to go to the finals? I should say. Usually, it seems like a 4 seed or another lower seed getting into the Stanley Cup Finals. The 4 seed worked out for the Pens perfectly the last few years, although I guess last year it didn't work out so well. So
but even as that 4 seed, they ended up hosting or having home ice advantage because they were the best seed remaining after the first round, as the number 1, 2, and 3 seeds all got knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. How many times? The Caps won the President's Trophy last year, and, they ran into red-hot Halak and lost to the Canadiens. So anything can happen. Like I said, I think Ryan Miller's going to turn it on. But ultimately, we'll have the Bruins coming out of the East. So
you have Bruins versus Canucks. Who do you have hoisting the Stanley Cup at the end of the day?
I'm going to go with the Canucks. I just think too much offensive firepower.
That's a very wise pick, and I think if they get past Chicago, then that's definitely a good pick. They can definitely go that far. I'm going to say San Jose. It's their year. They need to get over the hump, and they need to get past the history. Their team has been too good for too long, and adding a goaltender of Antiniemi, who won the Stanley Cup last year with the Blackhawks, I think that just fills in the last possible hole that they had. I don't see any way that San Jose doesn't hoist a cup as long as they keep playing the way they play.
Well, all right. Well, there it is. Thanks for everyone who listened to this podcast. We wish our leadoff man Greg was here. I hope I did all right filling in for him, although it's evident. I'm no Greg Bichero in this thing, but
We'd also like
I
to quickly thank a couple of the contributors, Ryan Iorio and Robbie Young, who have kindly given us lots of great information regarding the National Hockey League. Sadly, neither of them could be with us tonight, but as the playoffs commence and get a little bit further in, we're hoping to get one or both of them on for our next broadcast with the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and thank you for leading this podcast. It's pretty evident you're definitely the hockey guy between us. So hopefully I held my ground, but all right, everyone, have a safe night and get those beards growing.